Are the Vancouver Canucks a playoff team? The answer is maybe. Now that I have told you the answer, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Social 99, and bye. Alright, I guess I'll go in depth. Maybe is a boring answer. It's an answer that everybody can give out, and it's something that I don't think anybody will disagree with, because there's no real identity within the Vancouver Canucks that makes people say, yeah, they are a playoff team, or that makes people say, no, they're definitely not a playoff team. Because one thing's for sure, they are definitely closer to the playoffs this year than they were at the start of last season, just because of the new additions that they've made to the team, and overall, the development of the players that they've already had in the past. Now, when it comes to the playoffs, there are a few things that you need to look at. To make the playoffs, you need points. To get points, you need to win. To win, you need to score goals. And overall, you have to do that all better than your opponent. Let's talk about points. Last season, the Vancouver Canucks finished at 81 points. They were just a tad below 500, which in most years is not even close to making the playoffs. Last season, it was kind of close. The Colorado Avalanche made it with 90, but we'll get to the whole idea of other teams later in the video. In those 81 points that the Vancouver Canucks got, they had 35 wins. Period. 35 wins. And in order to get those wins, they needed to score themselves some goals. They had 225 goals. Now, taking a look at the positives and the negatives, the pluses and the minuses from the Vancouver Canucks, the Canucks lost Brendan Gaunce, Luke Schenn, Derek Pouliot, Michael Granlund, Michael Del Zotto, Eric Goodbranson, Sam Gagner, Darren Archibald, Anders Nielsen, Michael Carcone. They lost a few players, but they didn't lose too many players that I would say contribute to getting goals. And not necessarily contribute as in scoring goals, period. What I'm talking about here is the idea of helping goals and making goals happen. The team scores more goals when Elias Pettersson is on the ice. That doesn't mean that Pettersson is always getting points, it means that Pettersson allows the team to score more, if that makes sense. So taking a look at the guys that the Canucks lost, none of these guys are necessarily players who would take away goals from the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, collectively, yes, they would, but individually, not so much. But taking a look at who the Vancouver Canucks added in this offseason so far, they have themselves Francis Perron, Micheal Ferland, JT Miller, Myers, Benn, Fantenberg, and I'm gonna say Quinn Hughes. They added a whole bunch of players who, in my opinion, will contribute and allow goals to happen even more than they did last year. Guys like Ferland and Miller up front, these guys will force plays the other direction, and they will allow the Canucks to score more goals. Quinn Hughes is a guy who, in my opinion, his presence and his ability on the Vancouver Canucks will contribute to allowing the team to score approximately, 30, 40 more goals than they did last season, just from Hughes himself. And I'm not saying, again, that Quinn Hughes is going to get 40 points. I'm saying that Quinn Hughes and his skill being on the team will allow the Canucks to score about 40 more goals in the entire season. That's what I'm trying to paint here. Say what you want about Myers and his defensive issues, but he's going to do the same thing too. I can easily see the Vancouver Canucks allowing themselves to score about 20-ish more goals with Myers on the team. And obviously, I'm taking a look at this stat, this sort of idea that I'm putting out there, they will allow the team to score more goals. That's because whether or not Quinn Hughes is on the power play, Pettersson and Boeser will get points. That's for sure. But if Quinn Hughes is on the power play, it's to my understanding that they will get more goals. Plain and simple. It's not necessarily that Hughes will get points, but he will force plays that will allow the Canucks to succeed. And not everything is going to show up on the score sheet. Quinn Hughes might have a great breakout pass that gets sent up to Boeser. He takes a shot, Horvat passes it over to Petey, and he scores. So that's no Quinn Hughes assist there. But there are going to be more goals scored because of the players we've added. And in my opinion, just taking a look at everybody, I can easily see the Vancouver Canucks in total probably I don't know, getting upwards of 270, 60 goals? They had 225 last season, and combined with all of these factors, including the fact that Boeser and Pettersson are going to be healthy, assumably, and they're going to be more developed than before, this Vancouver Canucks team has the potential to really get some damage up front. Now, does that lead to as many wins as they need to make the playoffs? They had 35 wins last season, and I know some prominent members of the Vancouver media are saying that the Vancouver Canucks foreseeably only get 1 or 2 more wins, but in my opinion, just based off of how the goals are distributed, I could easily see the Vancouver Canucks getting upwards of 40 wins in the season next season. If I'm going to be honest, I can see that realistically. 40 wins, and that's something that last season was not enough to make the playoffs. But the way the roster is set up now, I could easily see 40 wins out of this roster. I wouldn't be surprised if they got 42, but if this team really wants to dig deep and impress me, I'm going to have to see 45, 46 wins. And 45, 46 wins, that's barely enough to make the playoffs, just based off of last season's standings. But going over into the last category that we need to talk about, the rest of the West. Now, it's no secret that the West sucked last year, and the averages amongst all of the teams last season were very subpar in comparison to previous seasons of NHL play. Now, in my opinion, there's nothing that we can look at and say justifiably that, yes, this is why the West will be as bad as it was last season, next season. And there's so much reason to believe that the West will just be better next year. So, these 45-ish wins that the Vancouver Canucks can maybe get, is that enough to make the playoffs? And this is really the wild card here because we have no idea. We realistically have no idea because hockey is a game of hot and cold. Teams are really good one year and they suck next year. Teams suck one year and become amazing next year. Overall, it's a very dynamic league, and taking a look at just one team and projecting them to make the playoffs, unless they've already established themselves as a clear consensus contender, I don't think it's really possible to label a definitive answer, which is why I'm saying maybe. I wouldn't be surprised if they made the playoffs, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't make it. So, everything that the Vancouver Canucks have and everything that they project to be next season, overall, I'm just excited. Everybody's talking about how exciting the Vancouver Canucks are with all these new additions, but the question on whether or not they make the playoffs, which is something that they need to do because they haven't made the playoffs in years, and Jim Benning is potentially going to get fired if he doesn't make the playoffs because he would have only made the playoffs once in the 5 to 6 years that he was here. And overall, that's not acceptable. Sure, it's a rebuilding team. Sure, it's a team that doesn't project to win anytime in the very, very short-term future. But this is a team that needs improvement. Which is why in my Boeser video yesterday, my Boeser for Caulfield video, I was saying, hey, if the Vancouver Canucks didn't need to win this season and make the playoffs this season, I would have traded Boeser for Caulfield in a first, and I explained why in that video. But ignoring all of that, taking a look at where the Vancouver Canucks are now and the context of the team today, they need to make the playoffs. And after going all in, acquiring Myers, acquiring Benn, Miller, Ferland, I don't know if there's enough to say, yes, they are 100% a playoff team. But that's only with the uncertainties of the league. Because this team definitely did improve. This team today is much, 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 much better than the team was a year ago, before the summer. Even the guys that we acquired during the year, Levo, Pearson, these guys are effective NHL players. Tanner Pearson was on pace for 30-something goals, and we got this guy for Goodbranson. If he gets 25 goals next season, it's an absolute win. I see this as an absolute win. If only there was time travel to allow me to go into the future and check that out. Okay, enough with the endgame references, but the Vancouver Canucks, are they a playoff team? Maybe. Nobody really knows, but I'm very much looking forward to seeing the results. Hope you enjoyed this quick little video. I'm really in a position where I don't know what else is there to talk about. Soldiers are supposed to sign 9, and bye.